While not every film may have a release date yet, 2023 already has some blockbuster films set to be released. There's a lot to look forward to, whether you're a fan of superhero films or films from big directors. There are hundreds of movies set to come out this year, but based on what we know as of right now, these are my top 25 anticipated films. Coming in at 25, we have Transformers: Rise of the Beasts, the seventh movie if you include Bumblebee, which is currently slated to release in June. I'll be honest, I don't know how many of these I've ever seen. I know I haven't seen Bumblebee. This last spot was really just to round out the list to 25 and make it a nice number. But the trailer looked cool, and I'm looking forward to seeing what looks to be a new take on the franchise. But there's not too much I can say about this film until I watch the rest of the movies beforehand. Next at 24, we have Asteroid City. I've heard barely anything about this film, hence the reason it's so low on the list, but it's a Wes Anderson film, and I've liked everything I've seen from him so far. And the cast is absolutely stacked. You've got Tom Hanks, Steve Carell, Margot Robbie, Scarlett Johansson, Edward Norton, Tilda Swinton, Adrian Brody, Rupert Friend, Maya Hawke, Jeff Goldblum, Jeffrey Wright, Tony Revolori, William Dafoe, and Bryan Cranston. I have no idea what this film is about, and yet the people working on this film alone make me excited to see it. At 23, we have 65, which will come out in March, and recently dropped its first trailer starring Adam Driver. While I have never even heard of this film until a few days ago, I'll admit this trailer has me intrigued. The basis where a pilot crash lands on Earth 65 million years ago is an interesting plot, and the trailer gives me a mix of Jurassic Park and A Quiet Place vibes, two films that I fairly enjoyed for the most part. I'm not expecting anything spectacular from this one, but I think it'll be a fun way to spend an evening, with dinosaurs and futuristic technology. At 22, we have another film that I honestly don't expect much from, other than a fun viewing experience. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. I don't know why it's become so popular to turn a nice little cartoon character into a violent killer for a horror movie. I'm pretty sure there's one about the Grinch coming up, or maybe it already released, but I'm a sucker for horror movies, so just keep them coming. The trailer for this one looked decent, but I'm hoping I can sit through a viewing of this and not cringe every few scenes. Number 21, we have Fast 10. This movie is included in the list almost solely because I just want to see where they go from here. They just keep churning these movies out, and you know what? Some of them are really good movies, but some of them aren't. I wasn't a huge fan of the last one, but I'm trying to be hopeful and optimistic when it comes to Fast 10, and that they don't take things too far in terms of believability. Next at number 20, we have Megan. This is where it starts to get to the movies that I'm really excited for, and I'll probably see in theaters, rather than wait for streaming. Megan actually comes out very soon, and I was instantly hooked by the first teaser. I don't know how much of a horror element the film would have, but I'm a big fan of Ex Machina and other AI-centered plots, and this looks to be somewhat different and unique take on the subgenre. Coming in at number 19, we have Meg 2. I actually didn't see the original one until recently. I know the original didn't get great reviews from either critics or fans, but there were certain elements that I really enjoyed about it, specifically the focus on marine biology and ocean life, that I'm just hoping remains a key aspect of the sequel. I'm very cautious about this one, but I do think I'll find parts to enjoy, even if it is met with a similar reaction by critics. At 18, we have Elemental. We haven't seen much from the film, other than a short teaser really, and while I wouldn't say that I'm excited as of right now, Pixar rarely misses on these animated films, so I think no matter how excited or interested I find myself when the release date approaches, I'm going to see it anyway, and give it a shot. I wasn't a huge fan of Lightyear or Turning Red, but I loved Luca, Onward, and Soul, and the studio just has more hits than they do misses. At 17, I think this may probably be the most surprising and probably unexpected movie to make the list, but The Nun 2 is actually a movie that I'm looking forward to seeing. It doesn't come out until much later this year, so not much is known about it, but as a huge horror fan, the Conjuring universe has always been one of my favorite franchises. While the original film wasn't great compared to some of the others in the same universe, it was good for a few scares, and while it comes to horror movies, I value that above all else. I can suffer through a subpar story if I feel a genuine fright or tension, something that I'm hoping to find in this sequel. Next, at 16, we have the live-action Little Mermaid film. These next couple of films on the list are all really close to each other. This could easily be 14 or 15, but I think my expectations for this film just aren't where they are for the other two. The short teaser we got for this film looked amazing. I think the visuals are really going to stand out in the film, and Halle Berry seems to really embody the role of Ariel. But at the end of the day, It's still a Disney princess film and a live-action adaptation of a story that I've already seen and was never a favorite of mine, so I can't seem to justify putting this any higher. There are quite a lot of superhero movies coming out in 2023, and at number 15 on the list, I have The Flash. I'm much more of a casual fan when it comes to DC, and with all the chaos behind the scenes, I found it hard to get really excited for any of their movies coming up. With the reboot currently taking place, I find it hard to believe that none of these release dates may change. And then with the whole Ezra Miller situation, I'm looking forward to seeing what the film has to offer. I've heard that it has the potential to be great, but I've heard it has the potential to be a great movie, but the real-world facet of this movie and the studio has just made it hard for me to get too excited for it. The reason it's this high on the list. Another movie that is interchangeable with the past two, but could also easily be higher if we just knew more about it, is Kraven the Hunter from Sony coming in at 14. It isn't set to premiere until October, so it doesn't concern me at all that we haven't heard very much about it, but it does make it hard to get excited for it. I think Aaron Taylor Johnson is a great casting choice to play the character, and despite Mobius being what it was, I think Sony finally has a plan in place for a cinematic universe, with Madam Web coming sometime next year as well, which may start to tie things together. Next at 13 we have Dune Part 2. I don't think I enjoyed the first film as much as the general public, but the movie has a great cast. Denis Villeneuve is a great director. The first one had some very cinematic shots, which I'm always a sucker for, and I was interested enough in the story and this universe to the point where I'll be looking forward to the sequel and seeing how everything is continued. At 12, we have the untitled sequel to Ghostbusters Afterlife. I really enjoyed watching this movie, almost more than some of the original ones, so I'm looking forward to seeing the same characters again. Even though it rarely happens, this whole idea of getting a younger group of teenagers to continue a franchise that has been popular recently actually worked for me here, a lot of which was thanks to the trio of Paul Rudd, McKenna Grace, and Logan Kim, who I'm all hoping return. Like I mentioned before, I'm a big horror guy, and while The Conjuring is my favorite franchise when it comes to the horror universe, the Insidious films are right behind it, which is the reason why Insidious Fear of the Dark comes in at number 11. I've only seen the first 3 films so far, and I'm not even sure where this film would be picking up, but odds are, if James Wan and Patrick Wilson are involved in a horror movie, it's going to be an enjoyable and terrifying experience. So before I get to my top 10, consider hitting that like button and let me know in the comments what has surprised you the most about this list so far, or what movies you're most looking forward to seeing in 2023. Okay, so coming in at number 10, Shazam! Fury of the Gods. I really enjoyed the first one. Zachary Levi really embodies the character, and is able to bring wholesome comedy to the superhero genre. The first one ended off with all the siblings getting powers as well, and it looks like the sequel will deal even more with the idea of family, and the inclusion of Rachel Zegler only makes me more excited for it. However, it's still DC, which I think will continue to concern me a little bit until this reboot is completely underway and things seem to be sorted out. Next at number 9 we have the 5th Indiana Jones film, The Dial of Destiny. Even though I'm still working on watching all of these films for the first time, the little I know about the character and the franchise as a whole makes me excited to see Harrison Ford return for what could be, and should be, his last time playing the famous character. Coming in at number 7 we have Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. I know this film still has a lot of controversy surrounding Amber Heard's role in the movie, as well as the possibility of a delay in 2024. But the first Aquaman is up there as one of my favorite DCEU movies, probably only behind Man of Steel and the Snyder Cut, so I'm very much looking forward to seeing how they wrap up Jason Momoa's time as Aquaman with this film. When it was first announced, I would have never expected for this film to make me as excited as it has now, but the various teasers and clips of the Super Mario Bros. Movie has made it one of my most anticipated movies of the year, officially coming in at number 7. I wasn't a huge fan of Chris Pratt voicing Mario when it was first announced, but over time I've gotten used to the voice, and I also think they've pitched it up a little bit, at least in some of the clips that recently released. I think Charlie Day as Luigi will take some time to get used to once I see more of that, but I think the castings of Jack Black as Bowser and Keegan-Michael Key as Toad are perfect. The animation has also surprised me with how good it looks. It won't be winning many awards, but I think the film could turn out to surprise a lot of people and be really good. Next at number 7 we have The Marvels, the Captain America sequel, set around Carol Danvers, Monica Rambeau, and Kamala Khan. We don't know too much about the movie's story yet, but based on a speculation and rumor, from what we saw to end the Ms. Marvel Disney Plus series, This is going to be a very cosmic story, and while it was my least anticipated of the Marvel movies this year, I'm still looking forward to it very much. Rounding out my top 5 is A Haunting in Venice, which is another Kenneth Branagh murder mystery that follows murder on the Orient Express and death on the Nile. I'm not too familiar with the story here, but just like horror, I love a good murder mystery, and even though Death on the Nile may not have lived up to the bar set by Orient Express, I thought the mystery element was still good enough to keep me entertained throughout. I'm not all too familiar with the cast for this one, but in my opinion, the acting and the characters as a whole were the big difference in terms of quality between the first 2 installments in the series. I know Death on the Nile didn't get very positive reviews, so I'm hoping they learn from that and rebound with a strong story and cast of characters here. Coming in at number 4 is Oppenheimer. I've been excited for this ever since it was really announced, simply because Christopher Nolan is behind the camera and there's a great cast working on it. This was originally lower on my list, but after seeing that first trailer for the movie, this has become one of my most anticipated movies of the year. And if we're talking about non-comic book movies or franchise releases, this is without a doubt my number 1 for the year. Cillian Murphy looks like he'll be outstanding in this, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's talk for an Oscar nomination for lead actor once this premieres in theaters. I love the tone we get from that trailer, and it looks like it'll be switching between color and black and white, and there's just a lot to look forward to with this one. The top 3 are really what this channel is all about and why I started this. I'm a big Marvel superhero comic book kind of guy, and that's what these top 3 are going to be. Coming in at 3, we have Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I think I'm in the minority here when I say that I actually really like the Ant-Man films. They're definitely different, but the humor and the characters all make up for what may be a more secluded story. Ant-Man is really one of those characters who has always had his story told on the side, with his movies minimally connecting with the overall MCU, compared to, say, Iron Man or Captain America. This movie looks like it's going to get very weird, but the visual effects all looked great in the trailer, and we're finally going to see the introduction of the next big bad for the MCU. I know we saw him in Loki, but the version of King looks like to be a more villainous variant. We don't have to wait too long for this one, which is another reason why it's so high on the list. At number 2, we have Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I don't think I enjoyed the first movie as much as the majority of viewers, but it was still a very good film, and the new trailer with different animation styles and different versions of Spider-Man gets me very excited for the bounty of Easter eggs the new film will have. I'm also hoping that this movie will help me grow more attached to the characters, something that I struggled with for a few of them in the original. I haven't mentioned this movie yet, so you can probably guess what's coming in at number 1. I've been a huge Marvel fan for a while now, and the Guardians of the Galaxy films are some of my favorites in that universe. They're unique, full of action, but also full of heart and emotions. It's easy to care about all of the characters, and the soundtrack is just amazing. I've been looking forward to this next installment for a while, and even more now that we know it's the final one focusing on the group of characters, as well as being the final one directed by James Gunn. The initial teaser looked great, and I think we all know that somebody is going to die, and I know that this film is going to be an emotional roller coaster, and as much as I dread it, I can't wait. This is why we go to the theater, spend time to sit in a dark room full of strangers, to feel these emotions and connect with these characters, and this universe on such a human level, despite there being gods and wizards fighting aliens from across the universe. I think this film is going to be a great send-off to these characters that so many of us have grown to love, and I think a lot of people are going to cry, including me probably. So that's my top 25 most anticipated movies of 2023. Let me know what you're most looking forward to seeing this year in the comments below. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, all the good stuff down below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again tomorrow.